Hello, everyone. Welcome to Good Body, Good Brain Podcast. This is Dr. Sally Good. I have also a really nice lady who's also kind of cute. She has written a book. She's had an incredible journey, and I can't wait for you to hear about Tracey Napier and her life and her new book. So welcome. So glad to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. How are
Lovely to
you?
see you. Good to see you.
Good
So
to see you.
tell me a little bit about what was your impetus to write a book? Everybody gets like some sort of bug and they start to write a book, and we say,
Yes. So that sounds like a simple question. There's a whole background to that, but I think I'll make a long story short. I lost my job in 2022. I was in the corporate world for 26 years. And around that time, I started really becoming psychic. And once I lost my job, I spent a lot more time to my personal growth and spiritual growth practices. And my intuitive abilities were just expanding. And I was guided to write a book and to speak. But my first task was to write a book. So I thought, okay, I'll write a book. I like psychics. And I've been to psychics in the past, and a couple of them had mentioned, I feel like you're going to write a book someday. I'm like, I don't know. I don't see that happening. What would I write about? And then so now that I was being guided myself, I thought, okay. And so I started writing a book. And maybe 2 or 3 weeks into it, I was sleeping and I received a message in my sleep. I heard and I saw at the same time, Get Changed, How to Become the Master of Your Own Life. And I thought, oh no. I knew that was supposed to be the topic and the title of my book. And I thought, I'm unemployed. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. And you want me to write a book on mastering life? I'm pretty sure you have the wrong person. But I knew that it was my duty to write this book. And over time, I realized that the book wasn't just for the readers, it was for me too. And it's really about learning how to step into your power and create the life you want.
I have questions for you. Lots of questions. Okay. You may or may not know that I also I work with a spiritual coach, and we do a lot of grounding and accessing other parts of the world other than the physical world. And this is something that's sort of been running in my family for a long time. We don't even talk about it very much. It's sort of like, oh yeah, like if your mom would ever call you and say, "Are you sick?" And of course you were sick, of course, and they knew you were sick, that kind of thing. But actually focusing on honing your intuition that it goes beyond what we call intuition into more empathic sort of realm. Take some guidance and some. I don't want to say it takes courage, because it's a thing that evolves over time. But one of my coaches, she was in a very concrete corporate job, running a very large agency, and she was on a plane trip and she started getting these messages, which really made her sort of like scared, like she didn't know what was happening. And she fortunately found a coach, and she opened up a whole world of intuition and connection that has proven to be very, very valuable to many, many people. So, do you think that your muses or whoever it is, for me, it's ancestors, it's other realms, it's people who've gone before who love me and care for me.
Mm-hmm.
They're always around. You can feel them. And I don't want to get too woo woo because people think I'm a science geek, but I also have this other side. Um, but why do you think, or how did it start coming to you about this intuitive path that you opened up?
Yeah. So growing up, I like every now and then, like, well, I first of all, I never knew, like, I have always known, I should say, that we're never alone. Like, I never felt alone. I felt spirits around me all the time. I never
Mhm.
saw them. I rarely heard them. Sometimes I would sense them around me, like physically feel them, but that wasn't that often. So it was really 2023, it was the end of 2022 when I got laid off. So it's 2023 when I really started receiving messages. And I received them primarily via like visions, so clairvoyant and clairaudient. But I get impressions as well, and I sometimes just sense and know things as well. And they just started coming to me. It wasn't like a shock. I was pleasantly, it was a pleasant surprise, I guess. And I
Mhm.
really enjoy receiving messages. And I receive
Mhm.
messages every day. And oftentimes, though, they're in my dream state or in meditation. And
Mhm.
oftentimes, they are kind of cryptic. I see images. Now I have to interpret the image. I don't know if I'm interpreting it correctly. And so it's a process of learning how to communicate with them and understand what they're sending me. And also just practicing. It's like a muscle. You have to build that muscle
Yes.
and to be
Mhm.
open up to it. And so, I'm
Mhm.
on that journey, but it wasn't really, shocking. It was it was nice to receive the messages, but it wasn't like, oh no, I know what to do. It was like,
It
yeah,
was it,
right.
it was it was kind of maybe comforting in a way, like
It was
you.
comforting, it was uplifting, that's the good word, uplifting and inspirational. And it gave me hope because a lot of it is so encouraging. So it just gave me hope in a dark time. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful time. Now, and then this resulted. Can you show us the book cover? I'm For the
Yeah.
people who are listening to the podcast, we're going to describe it. It's a beautiful cover. It's called Get Changed, and it has a lovely young lady who's dressed sort of in I would say going to work in a maybe higher level place, a corporate
Yep.
level or
Yep.
whatever. And she's sitting in the middle of her, what I could describe is California closets, perfect closet with everything matched in there with the silk blouses and everything in its place. And she's sitting on this lovely, it's not a stool, it's sort of like a little bench. She's getting ready to go to work and she's getting changed and she's
Mm-hmm.
becoming the master of her own life.
Yeah.
Um, and I love that idea that this so much supports like what you're trying to accomplish. Now, let's go back in time.
Sure.
When you were a little kid, you had your own challenges. Can you tell us just a little bit about that so that we understand how those challenges have made you into who you are today?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that question. Yeah, growing up, so I have what's called a cleft lip and palate. I was born with it. And that creates challenges with my speaking voice. And it makes my voice nasal. It also makes it difficult to enunciate certain letters and sounds because of the structure and the weak muscles of the palate. And
Mhm.
the palate also affects swallowing, which controls how much saliva you have in your mouth. So sometimes
Mhm.
I slur my words, and it just creates challenges. And because of my voice, I became extremely insecure growing up. Kids would make fun of me, and adults, even today, sometimes say things like, I can't understand a word you're saying, or you're going to have to speak up so I can hear you. And so I just taught myself not to speak unless spoken to. Even then, it was a yes and an answer if possible. So I did not want to talk. I would have rather have been silent and alone than run the risk of being made fun of. And to tie it back to this book, I had become really passive, and unknowingly, unconsciously, I had adopted this victim mindset. And it really held me back. I always thought my voice, my physical speaking voice, limited my potential. And then my mom passed away in 2018, and then I went on this journey of healing and self-discovery. And I started learning about my beliefs and my belief system. And I realized that it was never my voice that limited my potential. It was my thoughts and beliefs about it that did. And that started shifting how I thought about my voice. And, when I was guided to write this book, I knew it was a form of using my voice. I am still being guided to use my voice in various ways. Podcasts, videos, TV, poetry, whatever that looks like. And it's just a way for me to get out of my comfort zone and use my voice. And it helps me really learn how to step into my power and really take control of my life. And so it's been challenging, but that's the whole point.
Well, when you're talking about your challenges and overcome them, I can feel the strength of you coming through. That no matter what, we all have different kinds of things that limit us in different ways. Sometimes they're visible, and sometimes they're not. My podcast this morning was with a woman who had something called aphantasia. She can't represent things like visual things in her mind. So she has to learn a different way. It was a whole new thing I didn't know about. If you looked at her, you would never know anything. And plus, she has a Ph.D. in research.
That's so
but she learned. She learned everything I wrote. She can memorize. She just adapted to it. So whatever we do that we have to overcome. And sometimes we have things we don't know that are challenges that are in our path, but we don't see them like someone else might see them. And butting up against those limiting beliefs, I think, are all our challenges, because it doesn't just happen once. It happens in the next season of your life. People might say sometimes, oh, you're too old, or you're too young, or you don't know enough, or you can't relate to people who are like of this color or that color. There are many kind of things, barriers that people put up, and also perceptions that people put up around you that absolutely aren't true. Because honestly, when you are not nervous and you slow down and you're in your power, you're perfectly, shall we say, intelligible. As a trained ear, because I used to work with school kids as a trained ear, I can hear it a little bit. And that's why I asked you the first time. But if you're not trained, really, besides, they're going to be looking at how cute you are.
It's funny that you mentioned that, though. I have what I'm calling a keynote speak. I talk about the differences, the physical challenges that most of us have. We all, most of us, if not all of us, have something, right? And it's really a matter of shifting your perspective and changing how you perceive the challenge. I used to let it define me and hold me back. And now I'm seeing it as an opportunity, as a gift. It's really a gift how can I learn from this challenge? There's always gifts in our challenges. It's where we grow the most, I think.
Oh yes, oh yes. Nobody ever grew bigger by just being in their comfort zone.
Right.
So you got thrown into one pretty easily, but I would be willing to bet if you did a talk at a school for kids who had different kinds of speech things, could be other kinds of things, they would be like, wow, look at her. She didn't let this hold her back. So
Yeah.
you've become a really good role model for people for all different kinds of things, not just speech, but just to step up to the plate and say, hey, I'm not going to let my own thoughts limit me, which is
Right.
really the bottom line.
Yes, ultimately that's what it's all about. And that's my message, really. My beliefs, my thoughts are not going to limit me anymore. I let them hold me back for many, many years, but now I've seen the light. Seen the
Yes.
gift.
Tell me, you mentioned like there's a tagline like is it the seven secrets, the tagline?
Seven
Tell me a
steps.
little about
Yeah,
seven
7 steps
steps.
to master your life. Yes. I received that intuitively as well. And yeah, and so the 7 steps, 7 chapters in my book. And it's
Huh?
called, the first chapter is, um, um, eliminate bad habits. Second is get out of your comfort zone. And the third is get to know yourself and nurture your health, change your thoughts, develop a spiritual practice, and step into your
Mhm.
power. So those are the 7 steps. And so
Yes.
it's a small little book, and I just kind of go into each of them for a little bit. And I've been told it's kind of a lighthearted self-help book. I use a lot of metaphors, and I share stories about me to kind of illustrate the point.
Well,
Ah,
that's that. Yeah, people like the personal touch. They like to know who you are,
ah,
and I think any book that represents that. Um, um, I was writing a book on dementia, and it's kind of going to be a heavy subject.
mhm,
I had lots of sort of metaphors and sort of sort of pointed advice, like if you're 50 pounds overweight, you're drinking a 6 pack or a 12 pack a day, and you're not exercising, go ahead and get the life insurance policy now because you're going to need it. Sort of like those little quirky things that people say, like
mhm,
they might be like, what? No, I'm serious.
yeah,
Go out and get that life insurance policy because your family's going to need it because you won't be around. So sometimes we have to say things that sort of shake people up a little bit
mhm,
to get them to say, "What? Okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
maybe I better start thinking about this now."
yeah,
So, a little bit about spiritual practice, because I think that if people would take time to just slow down and listen to their higher power, their higher muses, their whatever. The slowing down part is the most essential first part. Because I tell people praying is telling your God or your higher power or whatever you want to say, Jesus or whoever, that you're talking to them. But you being still, being quiet, waiting, is them giving the opportunity to give you some messages back. Sometimes it feels like intuition. Sometimes it feels like, I call them angel whispers. It's just a little
mhm,
like whoosh.
yeah.
Um, and I say to people, whenever you get one of those, catch it and write it down, because you want to honor it, because it comes from a divine place.
Yes,
It comes from a
absolutely.
place outside.
I record all of my messages. I sync with my phone, which you probably shouldn't do, but I sync with my phone and I record them on ChatGPT actually. In the middle of the night, I'll wake up, or whenever I receive them, and it's important because they're giving you messages for a reason. So listen to them.
And that might be book number 2.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's a journey, right? I'm being guided to do certain things, and I write down my
Mhm.
feelings. And as far as spiritual practices, I do meditation every single day, and simple things that a lot of people do. Yoga, I consider that a spiritual practice. I do tapping, EFT tapping. Um,
Yes, yes.
Reluctantly, it's helpful, but I really hate doing it, to be honest.
Can you
um,
can you talk about tapping just a little bit, because people don't get it. If I tell people, like, if you were going to like touch points on your body that were acupuncture points,
mhm.
and you actually tap them, it actually does a calmative kind of thing and actually helps you heal in
Mm,
sometimes in many ways. I have an
yeah,
intuitive healer who lives in Ireland, and she does uses tapping. She gets the numbers, she writes them down, and she says, okay, we're going to do this tapping for this amount of time and this tapping, and it just sort of like you can feel it just honing into that area that you really really want to do work on.
yeah. And for me, I usually do it for about 10 minutes. But I really feel into the feeling. So if I'm working
Hmm.
on frustration, I'm really frustrated right now, feeling so frustrated. And so when I tap on it and tap on your point, it's really releasing that energy. I yawn constantly. And so, I try to speak the words out loud. But if I'm yawning, or sometimes I'll cry. If I'm in the middle of yawn or cry, I'll do it in my head and keep going. But it's really a release of pent up energy.
Right, you're
And so
moving
we
in the
focus
energy
on
around.
you move it out. Yeah, you move it out. And so it's really helpful. I really don't enjoy doing it, to be honest. I just feel like hitting myself. I am, it's just tender after a while. Like, I'm tired of hitting myself. It hurts. But it's really effective, so I do it.
Yes, and there are many people around the world who do this, and there's even like applications you can get on your phone.
Yeah.
uh, Ortman,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, he
Yeah,
sort of
I
like
do
brought it
that.
to America, and there's many people who do it in different kinds of ways. But any kind of spiritual practice, I think you do to get in touch with you,
Yeah.
that you are really, really just listening to your own self, your own voice, and either recording it or acknowledging it or journaling or whatever
Yeah.
you're doing to put yourself in a position where you're just you and you, or
Open.
sort of.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And you're receptive to whatever appears on the horizon.
Yeah, journaling and reflecting is part of my spiritual practice as well. Stretching and uh, and Reiki. I do Reiki every single day. I do it as I go to bed at night. So
Did you have a Reiki master that you studied with before
yeah,
you started your Reiki?
I trained under two Reiki masters, and
Hmm.
that I started in 2022, and
Hmm.
then I did it again. I think it was late 2022. And so yeah, I've been trained under two. And so I give it to myself every night, and it really helps me go to sleep. But it opens up your energy. I personally believe between Reiki and the inner work that I've done with processing my emotions and beliefs has really opened me up to receive guidance from the universe to open up my
Yes.
intuitive abilities. I really believe that's the main reason why I'm open, and continue to get more and more open. Yeah, so and it helps calm your nervous system too. Like it helps you
Hmm.
release and just be calm. So I'm still working on that, but but it's really helpful. So,
Being calm in this day and age is certainly. I had a talk called "Calm is the New Superpower," because there's so many ways to be calm. I used to do help people with their vagus nerve, because it's easy to teach someone how to activate their vagus nerve, like, and get your parasympathetic system rest and digest going instead of fight, flight, freeze.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole nother big subject, that if people would learn to do this thing in grammar school, regulate their emotions, whoa, we would have a better high school experience, I think, and also a better adulthood, because we would all have the same general understanding of what it takes to regulate your body and be in control of your emotions, which is I think the hardest thing when you're going through the high school years.
It is. I agree with that, and I agree. I see one day, I don't know when, hopefully it's in my lifetime, when school systems will change and start incorporating a holistic education, including how to regulate our emotions, how to become calm, and understanding our belief systems, and just all of that helps us grow and be more compassionate toward ourselves and other people. And I feel like it would be a different world.
Oh, it would. And see, the more people that have this idea, and the more people who are listening to this idea on the podcast, or either on, maybe even on YouTube, because it will be on all the podcasts. And so I'm doing a little commercial now. Please, while you're listening, or if you have the chance on YouTube, click follow and subscribe, because that helps us get these messages out to more people across the world. And literally, I was talking to a person from Scotland this morning, and from California. I mean, we have no boundaries anymore geographically. If you can get a Wi-Fi link anywhere, we can have a conversation that propels us into bigger and better ideas. So that, I think, is the most wonderful thing about being able to podcast and share ideas with other people. So thank you so much for sharing your book today. Thank you for coming on and telling us about your life, your challenges, how you just kick those things to the curb, and who knows what will be happening in the next 5 years. I think there might be another book coming up, another book related to other things in your life. But it's fantastic, Tracey. Tracey Napier, author, podcaster, intuitive. Do you do intuitive coaching as well?
I am an intuitive life coach, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. And on the show notes for the podcast, we'll have ways for you to get in touch with Tracey if you'd like to talk with her further. But from now, I thank all of you for listening and watching the Good Body, Good Brain podcast, and we hope to see you in the near future. And thank you so much for listening today. It's been a lot of fun, and thank you so much. We'll see you next time.